ವಮೇತಿಯ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಂದರದ Ariga pai samuna guanuma ipanula vere mupunta wagia garina go Aria pai samuna guanuma vere mupunta.
Hi, so Lawrence, I know you and I had spoken during the time that COVID had first come in, and we had been concerned because I guess a lot of the classes had been shut down, and you were speaking about during our New Year's Eve Garifuna Film Festival celebration about perseverance and being able to still connect with your classmates. I mean, obviously you overcame a lot because you're graduating in in July, but do you have,
Right.
we have some more about, you know, coming here, having to I know aviation is it takes a lot of money to get into it. It takes a lot of heart, a lot of focus, and you had to deal, I guess, with language as well. So do you have any comments about your experiences?
Oh yeah, it's been a tough journey, you know, from the ground up. But I must give thanks to my good friend, you know, and he's also my mentor, you know, what's his name? Arthur Hoy. You know, I called him because I was about to give up because before I start this program, I'm like, oh, the pandemic, I don't want to waste this money and then I can't get a job and all this type of stuff. And he said, you got to stay positive and just keep pushing, you know. So I nevertheless, I went in and I'll be graduating soon in 6 weeks or so. Yeah.
And in the middle of it all, you were still posting things for the film festival, helping us get a lot of things together. So
Right.
you are truly focused. If you'd like to
Right.
introduce your panel and team. Thank you.
Right. Great. So, greetings everyone. Thank you for joining our Young Aviators conference. And, this conference is hosted by the Garifuna International Film Festival. And, for those who don't know, I am a Garifuna, I'm of that descent. And, we are a people group from Central America, which originated out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I appreciate you all for taking the time to join us today. And I'm going to share, a short session with you guys about aviation, and I brought some of my colleagues along. It's going to be brief because, most of you guys have to go back to work and stuff like that to get flying. So for those who don't know me, I'm Lawrence Nicholas. I'm from PG, which we call Punta Gorda town. It's a small town in the coast of Belize. And, that's in Central America and the Caribbean. And I'm currently a graduate student at Delta State University doing my Master's of Commercial Aviation degree. And, I just wanted to introduce some of my colleagues. I think we have, what's his name on the line? We have Dylan, Josh, Jackson, and then we have my good friend Victor Rather. He's a certified flight instructor. And then we also have Arthur Hoy, who I've known for many years before I even went to school. Arthur and his father has been a very they are like aviation royalty in Belize. So, a lot of pilots are pilots today because, they opened the door and gave opportunities to them. So he's a big part of me becoming an aviator today, his dad. And also, I want to give a shout out to my mentor, Captain Robert Lee from Air Canada, who has been instrumental in mentoring me for the past 13 years in aviation. So nonetheless, I just wanted to ask Dylan to, just briefly share, his dream of flight, how it started, You know, I wanted to know from him, like, you know, why did he want to become an aviator? You know, for those of you who always, you know, send messages and ask people like myself and the other guys who are in the aviation field or studying aviation, how did you do it? A lot of them wanted to do it, but because of finances or, you know, because everybody knows it's very expensive to become a pilot, it's very expensive to study aviation. But I always believe that, you know, when you trust in God and, you know, there will be a way, and there's always ways to make stuff happen. So before I even share my story, I know Dylan has a you know, a time span he has to meet. So I just wanted him to briefly share with us, you know how he got to where he did, how he's all started for him, you know. And I believe he's from the he also is from Barbados, so he's a Caribbean brother like us. So um, if Dylan, you know, would just start out, you know, by saying, you know, how he started out for him and stuff like that, and we'll carry on from there.
Sounds good. Could you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good, bro.
Okay, you can hear me? Okay, yeah. So, hi guys. My name is Dylan Jackson from Barbados. My journey first started, realistically, I wanted to be a pilot first when I saw the Concorde, because we used to have service from England to Barbados on the Concorde. So it used to kind of pass by my house. And it was just like a beautiful airplane. It delta wing, making that left turn before it landed in Barbados all the time. I would look on my balcony and I saw the airplane and it was so majestic. So I always wanted to be a pilot since really the Concorde, since I first saw it landed. But I didn't think it was attainable because being from the Caribbean, the typical trend is to be like a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. You don't really hear many people wanting to be pilots. So I didn't really know which journey to go. So I first started flying flight simulators. I started off with flight simulators when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I think many aviators, we all start with flight sim. It's a pretty fun game if you enjoy aviation. So I did a lot of flight simulators. About 12 years old, I started to rent from our Barbados Light Airplane Club. It's pretty much a small flight school, and we would just rent a Cessna 172, kind of fly around Barbados. Barbados is pretty small, so a 1 hour lesson, and you pretty much flew around the entire coast. So since my first flight, it was that is what sparked it for me, because I knew I can kind of pursue the dream. So I did my I finished off secondary school in Barbados, and I left my country when I was 16 to start university. I went to Aeronautical University in Florida. It's known as Florida Tech. It's just south of Embry-Riddle. Because everyone knows Embry-Riddle, Florida Tech is like just about 70 miles south. So it's an aeronautical university, so I kind of got accepted off of my CXC grades, and I left Barbados to pursue that career in Florida at about 16 years old. So I did my aviation management with flight degree. The good thing about the aeronautical university is you can both do your management degree along with flight, because being a pilot, if you lose your medical, your career is kind of done. So I always tell people it's really good to have a backup just in case. So I still have my management. I can always go be an airport manager if anything did happen with my medical certificate while flying. So I did 4 years of that school. Within that 4 years, I got my private instrument, commercial multi. I became a flight instructor. I taught kids how to fly, and I did that to build time. Once reaching 1,000 hours of flight time, then I got hired onto a U.S. regional. I used to be Miami based. I just closed our Miami base due to COVID. So now I live in Miami, but I'm based in New York. So now I commute to work. The industry itself right now, as you know, with COVID, the demand is still pretty far down. Just last year, we were flying planes with 1 or 2 people on board, but still supplies still have to go. The reason we were still flying is because we were transporting medical supplies. So ventilators, masks. During that time when the world was shut down, cargo still had to move. So we were actually flying a lot of cargo. Now passenger demand is kind of picking up again. A lot of my flights right now are pretty full. So it's looking good, but we're still like 68% of where we used to be, which is not as good as where we want to be. We want to get back to 100%. So the recovery efforts, we're not sure how long it's going to be. Just last year, I got a letter saying I would have lost my job. That's why I said it's always good to have a backup, because when the industry crumbles, aviation goes first. As we said, flying is not a mandatory thing. If people can drive from Miami to New York if they wanted to, instead of having to spend $200-300 on a ticket. Some people would just drive. So flying is really not a necessity. It's more of a leisure as opposed to a necessity. So I always tell people the industry, it usually it goes up for 10 years and it goes down. Every 10 years there's going to be some sort of economical impact on the industry. So always brace for that. I'm hoping COVID was the last one. We're starting to see some pretty good recovery. Airlines are hiring again. So luckily for me, I didn't lose my job because the government kind of helped us out. So that was one positive thing with the industry. But I mean, I fly with some captains who 2001, they were laid off like 7 years. Then 2008 happened. And then they were laid off again for like 4 years. So the industry is kind of a cycle. If you're willing to ride out the cycle, it's really, really good. A lot of people come into it and expect it's all glamour. It's not all glamour. 99% of the time, glamour. For me, I enjoy the job. It's still a really, really good job, but like anything, you have ups and downs. One of the perks of the job is when you're done flying, you can just go home. You don't have to bring home work. Like if you're an accountant or a doctor, sometimes you may not be working in the office, but you may receive phone calls at home to still do work. With a pilot line, once you're done and set the parking brake, that's pretty much that. You don't really work. Next thing with the job, it's 18. If you're pretty senior, you just work like 12 days a month. Like last month, they had 17 days off. So you don't really work. I mean, you still work a lot if you want, but 17 days off, I don't really know any other job that you only work 12 or 13 days a month.
Right.
You know, next perk would be the flight benefits. Everyone loves the flight benefits.
Right.
So yeah, the flight benefits are really good. My advice to anyone starting now would to be just keep on pushing. As you said, it's very expensive. I know flight training is very, very expensive. There's a lot of scholarships. OBAP is offering some scholarships. The application window is actually open. Next thing I would recommend is there's a lot of flight schools. When looking at flight schools, if you do want to pursue it, is if you look at a flight school, I personally look at a flight school who can pretty much do it the quickest, because the way this industry is set up, you want to get in as quick as you can because seniority is key. Every month or every 2 months you wait, people go above you, and this industry goes in terms of seniority. So whoever was hired first. So I got the letter to get furloughed because I was pretty junior at my airline. I wasn't that senior. But luckily for us, the government kind of bailed out the airlines. So it's not all going to be smoke. It's not all going to be ups. Like any other job, there's going to have downs in it, but it is still an amazing job. I mean, we get paid to fly $40 million aircraft at 38,000 feet, 600 miles an hour. You know, the responsibility we carry a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. And overall, the job is for me, it's like living a dream. And if it is your dream to be a pilot, I say pursue it. I know in the Caribbean, a lot of people kind of let the dream die because they don't really know where to go. Like with me, I didn't really know where to go. I didn't have that many people to ask. But now I'm an airline pilot now. It's groups like this that we can kind of help give back or give answers as to where to go throughout the journey. Because if you don't know where you're going in this, it's a big world, and everyone needs guidance or everyone needs mentors. So just these conferences kind of help open up people's eyes and keep people driven and keep going. So my advice to everyone would be just keep the dream alive. Got to keep it going.
Right.
It took me from zero to being an airline pilot. It took me about 5.5 years, you know. But I also did a university degree. If you don't do a university degree and just do flight training, some people do it in 2.5 to 3 years, which is really, really good because, I mean, once you get the job, it's really a dream career. And there's a lot of different aspects in flying too. It doesn't have to be commercial. You have cargo flying, so you can fly cargo. You can fly corporates like private jets. You know, there's a lot of different areas in flying that people can pursue. A lot of people just look at American, Delta, United. There's a whole lot of other types of flying that people do that's just as enjoyable.
Right. So I'm repping Millionaire right now.
Yeah, the FBO, I see it.
Yeah.
I see it. And yeah. So that's good.
Right.
Any questions, man?
Any questions from anybody? But I mean, I hear what you say, Dylan, but I just wanted you to like expand on what you think, like for someone who don't have the support, you know what I mean? Like you don't have like your parents don't, you know, from us, like from back home, from the Caribbean and stuff, like most of our parents don't, you know, have big time jobs, or, you know, some people feel like it's impossible because, you know, you don't have the money, or it looks really, really impossible.
Yeah. And I could imagine why, because as you said, it's a very expensive career. Starting, it's very, very expensive, you know? So I would recommend just working and saving over time. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of people that I flew with that had similar situations, they would work and save and fly like once or twice a month. You don't have to knock it out immediately. Some people, it takes 5 to 7 years before they can even achieve it just because it's so expensive. You can take loans or just work to save long term, fight for scholarships. So a lot of scholarships out there. You just got to keep looking. Just got to keep looking. But that's the only kind of advice I could give in that aspect.
Right. Somebody just asked, I guess this is one of my friends from Poland that is watching. This person asked, could you describe the process of getting a license to carry people? So I guess that's the commercial license.
So the process of getting the commercial is that so you first start with a private pilot certificate. That's a basic introductory certificate. That certificate is all the basic maneuvers. A private pilot allows you to carry passengers, but you just can't get paid. So you can go up there with friends. That's the more recreational type of certificate. The instrument rating is the one that will allow you to fly in clouds. So once you get instrument rated, you can now fly in clouds. So you can just a private allows you to just fly visually. Instrument rating allows you to fly in clouds. Once you get a commercial certificate allows you to carry people. So there's two types. There's a commercial single engine certificate and a commercial multi-engine certificate. So the process I went through is I went from private, I got my private first, followed by instrument, and then we did commercial multi-engine and then commercial single engine. So the process, it kind of goes in order. You have to get a private first before you get a commercial. You can't just go and get a commercial certificate.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find a way in terms of the process. Yeah, the process would be private first, and then instrument, and then commercial multi. And commercial is usually the last step. You know, commercial is usually the last step.
Right.
And you can get paid to carry passengers with a commercial certificate. So that's pretty good.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, we know you got to run, but we thank you for that insightful that you share. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is like, what are like your aspirations, like what you want to do after now you're hired, you're part of the industry. You know
Yeah.
what are your parts to make a difference, and to where do you see yourself coming up?
Yeah, my plan to make a difference. I'm trying to get on like pilot training and acquisition at my airline to recruit the recruiting board of my airline. So I currently have my application in. So I'm hoping to, if I could get on recruiting, my plan is to join some organizations and, you know, try to give back in terms of just doing more talking, kind of just helping out, guidance. I wouldn't mind being a mentor. So definitely recruiting. Long-term goal would be to maybe start a scholarship. That's definitely my long-term goal. Once to get to like a major airline, I'd love to start like a scholarship. But yeah, definitely plan is to definitely give back. Either start a scholarship, definitely be on the recruiting team of my airline, and definitely continue to give back to organizations just like this.
Right. All right, Dylan. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All the time, man, Lawrence. Have a good day, boss.
You too.
All right, see you.
So that was Dylan Jackson from Barbados, and like he said, studying aviation is very, very an expensive venture, and it's like you really have to believe in yourself to pursue this type of career. Because I know for me, when I started out, that I wanted to become a aviator or be a part of the aviation industry. I was like 4 years old because I grew up right next to the airport in Punta Gorda, Belize. And growing up next to the airport, you would see people who fly for Tropic Air. We had Tropic Air in Belize, and we had Maya Island Air. And some of the pilots that I remember seeing as a child growing up would be what's his name, Mr. Wagner. You know, he was a neighborhood friend to my family also. And then you had Esteban Mes from Maya Island Air, and different guys who are legends in Belize in the aviation industry. And, you know, I would go up to them and I said, you know, this, that, I want to become a pilot. I want to learn how to fly, what you guys did, you know, and they open up the, you know, the knowledge and give me some information on how I went online, did my research and stuff like that. But, going back to how I started out is like, I left Belize when I was about 16 years old to attend mission school with my aunt in North Carolina, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And Winston-Salem became like my second home. And, North Carolina is where aviation started in the early 1900s, rather. If those of you who know the history of aviation, here in North Carolina. So it was just amazing that I got my start right where aviation started, almost 100 years ago. So after I graduated from Toledo Community College in Punta Gorda, Belize, I went to Belize City, and the director of operations at Tropic Air, would allow me to go on the planes before I left Belize. Mr. Hoy, at Caribbean Airlines, he would let me go on their planes. And for me to really discover if that's what I really wanted to do, because I was just not just hoping like, is this just a dream? Maybe I scared of heights or something like that. So I wanted to make sure that that's really what I want to do, and it's not just a dream, and it's something that I can actually do. And after they helped me out to discover my flight and everything like that, I end up coming to North Carolina, like I mentioned, and I went to Guilford Tech Community College in Greensboro, North Carolina. Where I did my um, associate's degree program in aviation management, and which the flight path as well. However, finances and things were not right because, I didn't have as much support like I needed, to finish, and my mother, she sold all that she had for me to, pursue my dream, God rest her soul. So after after a year of being at Guilford Tech, things didn't really work out. The money wasn't enough and wasn't enough and everything. And I end up, had to take a break for a couple months, and I was so discouraged, and I didn't know what I was going to do because like I already made all this investment. My family is counting on me to become this person that I say I'm going to be and all that type of stuff. And long and behold, I saw a scholarship came up for people to go and study in Poland. And I applied, and I just believe God for that scholarship to go and study in Poland. And in 2017, a few months after things didn't work out in North Carolina, I got the scholarship to go and study in Poland, and I graduated last year with my bachelor's degree from Poland. And immediately after I finished that program in Poland, I wanted to go straight into my Master's of Commercial Aviation degree at Delta State. And as you guys know, last year the pandemic happened. Everything was so unpredicted. So you didn't know what you wanted to do, or should you still pursue your career? Should you still do what you needed to do? So I spoke to my good friend. What's his name? Vic. Rather, he was a graduate from Delta State, and then I also called out to Hoy, and they encouraged me to go forward. So I just wanted to thank them, and that's basically my story, and I look forward to be graduating in the next 8 weeks from Delta State, and to continue to pursue being a influence and doing good things in the aviation industry, and to pursue the dream and the career that I want. So I'll ask now for Vic. I know he has to run also, to just share his story and his goal. And he's a certified flight instructor, so anyone on here that wants to learn how to fly, he's the type of guy that every person needs to meet if you want to become a pilot, because they have all the information also, and they are the one who teach you when you go to flight school. So if Vic, if you don't mind, you can take over from there.
Cool. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. I think I hit the unmute button. Okay. Cool. Hey everybody. Yeah. My name is Victor. like Lawrence said. I'm from Mississippi and then went to Delta State University to do my flight training there. I kind of grew up around an airport a little bit, so I guess that's kind of the same thing with some people here. They kind of see that happen a lot. They see a jet or they see another airplane, flying around a lot, and you get the idea of like, oh, wonder, if I can do that one day. So I had a little bit of that growing up, and then went to Delta State for an open house and got to mess around in the simulator that they have there, and got to do a tour of the different planes and stuff that are at Delta State, and got really fascinated with it, and just started doing training and started going to school there, and then became a flight instructor. And I flight instructed at Delta State for about 3.5 years to build up my time, just like a lot of people do now. That's probably one of the most common things you'll see with a lot of people that are either in the airlines or about to go to an airline, is that they built up a bunch of time trying to teach other people and trying to kind of get better at flying themselves while teaching somebody else how to fly. So I think that's definitely one of the better ways to build up time whenever you get to that point, is because if you can teach somebody else to do it, then that you can do it, and that you have all that knowledge to give to somebody else. So I definitely recommend that whenever you get to that point. If you have the choice to build time just by yourself or with a friend, or if you want to build time by teaching others, I definitely recommend leaning towards the teaching others for sure. So but then after instructing for a little bit, I'm actually in Minneapolis right now. I'm with Endeavor Airlines as their first officer. I'm going through training right now, so we just had a couple tests the past couple of days and even this morning, and thankfully everything's going good with that. So it's good to finally be here. Like everybody else with the pandemic, everything kind of had to stop and kind of got put on the back burner for a lot of people. So I had a job offer with them before the pandemic. They put hiring and everything on pause for the year, and then once traveling started picking back up, they started reaching back out to us and said, hey, if you're still interested in coming to Endeavor, we'd love to have you. So I was like, heck yeah, I'll do it, let's go. So so now I'm starting to do their training, and it's going really well, and I'm happy to be here, and happy to have the opportunity to talk to you guys, and then to to be able to continue to have a career in aviation. It's definitely a blessing for sure.
Right. So Vic, how did you went from zero all the way to certified flight instructor?
Yeah, so I went to, like we said, Delta State University. It's like the master's program that you're doing. They also have an undergrad program where you can do management if you want to do management, but they also have an undergraduate flight operations program. So you go from zero, like I was. I didn't have any flight training or anything like that before I went to college. I was 18 years old and then got to go into an airplane after being at school for 3 weeks. So, so you don't have to have anything. You can go from zero to whatever you want to do. So there's some people that do a little bit of training and then go to a university. It's really just whatever you can do. So, but yeah, I went to Delta State University and just did their flight operations program, and then, just started working and learning and flying and going from there. And then to graduate with an undergraduate certificate from Delta State, you have to get your initial CFI. You can get other, licenses to where you can teach instrument, or you can teach multi-engine, but you don't have to get that to graduate. But I just wanted to get that just to have more experience and to be able to teach more students and that kind of stuff.
Right. So, so your experience as a certified flight instructor, have you seen any of your students make it to the airlines yet, or are we still working on that?
Almost. I've got a couple. There's I think there's probably one or two that are kind of right in the same boat as me, that they were able to they got their flight instructor license and they started building time, and then they were able. I've got, I think, one student. I think he was with Republic, and then now he's with somebody else. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's with an airline, and I think there's a few other that are just kind of right below me that are just now getting to their 1,000 hours and trying to send in applications to different places and stuff like that.
Right. So if there's anybody on the line, and I know some people are watching via Facebook Live. But if what's her name? If Kayla if there's anybody who have questions for Vic about, wanting to learn how to fly, he's your guy. And so is there anyone who has any questions or things that they want to ask? If you're interested in becoming a pilot or wanting to fly, he can also train you. Right now he's getting ready to transition, but I think he'll still be open to take students and stuff like that. So if you have any like questions or maybe something you want to ask Vic, for those of you who want to fly maybe sometime in the future, or that's your dream, this is your time to ask the question.
What do you think is a strength that you need to have to be able to be a good pilot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of different things a lot of people can bring. Just because they're different, they grow up differently, they have different experiences. And I think that's one of the best things that happens in aviation is you get to interact with people, even in the flight. So I think being able to communicate effectively is a really big, I guess, big important factor for being a pilot. Before when we were growing up, I guess aviation, when it was just becoming big and they were developing different systems and doing different things, a lot of pilots were kind of like, I'm the captain, I'm going to fly the plane, you're just going to sit there. And that's not really how it is anymore. It's really the captain and the first officer. They're really not, they are different, but they're both pilots. They're both in the same airplane. They're both trying to make sure that this plane gets from point A to point B as safe as possible. And to do that, you have to communicate. So that's one of the things that I'm going through with training right now. That's one of the things they're emphasizing right now is to be safe. You don't just sit there and just let the captain do what he wants. You say, hey, we have this procedure. Let's follow this procedure and let's communicate to get everything done.
My other question for you too, Vic, is like, I remember when I came to North Carolina, my flight instructor was like way younger than me, and
yeah.
I was like kind of scared. Like, I hope is having confidence in your flight instructor a big key as well, or it doesn't, or you just take who they assign you when you go to a flight school?
Yeah, so typically what happens at most flight schools is you just get assigned a flight instructor or a flight slot. And sometimes you will get to jump back and forth between different instructors. But yeah, a lot of times you just get assigned one randomly. And like what we did at Delta State is if there was an issue with your flight instructor, you could go talk to an assistant chief flight instructor. And it didn't have to be like a serious issue. It could be like something you mentioned, like, hey, just for some reason I'm not interacting with this person in the right way. It's not them, it's not me. It's just it happens sometimes. Not everybody is going to just get along with everybody. So a lot of places do that where you can just say, hey, do you mind if I try switching to a different instructor? Just try to get, interact with somebody else or try to get a different viewpoint. Because, that just happens. We're all people. Sometimes people just don't work out. So.
Right. So, my other question was like, what was your career like at Delta State? Like, I know I'm getting ready to be a alumni of Delta State, but you're an official alumni, and I just wanted to know, what was your experience there, and would you recommend other people to come to Delta State? Like you were part of the faculty there and everything, so what stand out about Delta State from other universities, or why should they choose Delta State?
Right. Yeah. So I really like Delta State because it was a small university. It has started to grow a little bit since I first arrived. The class that I came in with, it was me and probably maybe 8 other people that we all started at zero, and we're all starting together and starting to do flight training. I think now there's classes of maybe 35 to 40 kids that are coming in at once, as freshmen in college. So it has grown a little bit, but even then, it's a pretty small community at Delta State. There's only maybe total 3,500 students at Delta State, and that's like everybody from aviation to, any other degree. So it's a pretty small university, and that helped me out a lot because people actually knew who I was. They knew my name, and I could go and interact with any of the other instructors or any other aviation student, and I was able to kind of, connect with them, and it helped, studying, and whenever there was something I didn't understand or, didn't, fully comprehend, I could go and I was able to easily find somebody to talk to and get help with, stuff like that. And same thing with like the master's program as well. The master's program was pretty small, so it was easier to kind of, message people or interact with people again if there was something I just wasn't, sure about.
Right.
Oh yeah, I see a question. Yeah, do we get students? Yeah, so Delta State University actually has a lot of foreign exchange students that come over. Some do it for aviation. For instance, I think two of the students that I had, one was from I think Ghana, and one was from Brazil, I think. So I've had a couple different. Some of my students that I had were from just different places around the world, and there is actually a lot of people that go to Delta State just because of it's relatively cheap compared to some of the other universities. Right. There's not really a lot of, I guess there's not as big fees as that some of the bigger universities can have that are in different places. But yeah, Delta State does have a lot of foreign exchange students that come from everywhere pretty much.
So I know you got to run as well, Vic, but we thank you for taking the time out. But anybody else had any question, Tyrone? Anybody else have questions?
A quick one, if you have a moment, or any of you can answer this one, is with what happened with COVID and just seeing some of the instability that happened in the job market so quickly. Did it alter any of your plans or how you want to go forward with your career plans, or did you basically say, nope, the path I'm on, this is it, and I'm doing this the right way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I still wanted to do aviation. Like Lawrence, I did the same program that he's in right now at Delta State. So like you said, I have a master's so that I have that to kind of fall back on. I was about to start to kind of feel that out to see if I could work at, an airport as a manager or, something like that, just to kind of do something while I was waiting to see what the kind of pilot side of the industry was going to do. Thankfully, I was able to kind of wait it out and just kind of wait for my chance to go to an actual airline and everything like that. But that's kind of what I had to go through, just, playing the waiting game, basically.
Tyrone, you had anything you wanted to ask?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you. I mean, again, I want to begin to thank everyone who were instrumental in putting this together. Very informative. I've enjoyed my time here thus far. Victor, I have a question for you as a flight instructor. I am actually thinking about going the route of earning myself or learn how to fly. It's always been a dream of mine. Like Lawrence said, the two of us grew up not too far from each other, not too distant from each other. We both grew up next to the airport in Punta Gorda, Belize, and again, that's where I think the intimate connection came from in terms of our interest to fly. For me, it's just more, I would say, more of a personal endeavor that I would like to accomplish. One of those things that are on your bucket list, on my bucket list. So I am in the process of identifying the institution or a flight school that will be able to, help me facilitate with that goal. So in terms of identifying flight schools and flight instructors, I mean, what are some of the criteria that you believe are important for someone like me to look at when I make, in terms of making that choice?
Cool. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So no matter what, even if, you're doing your flight training as, just like you said, just to do it, just to kind of achieve a goal. And that's your goal, is to be, a private pilot, just to be able to kind of fly yourself and family just kind of whenever, whether it's that, or if you do want to be, a professional pilot one day, you want to make sure that university, or you can even do a personal flight school. There's some people that they have their own planes and they're not really associated with any kind of higher level education program. They're just kind of doing it by themselves. And that it could be an option, since if you want to do it just to kind of get a private license, that might be the quicker way for you to do that. Because sometimes I know what some universities will do is they'll say, oh, this person is only going to do it for recreational use, so we're going to kind of put them towards the back. And if they get a flight slot, they get a flight slot. If not, I'm going to go give it to the professional pilot, so he can go and actually, get his commercial license and then go become a flight instructor and then go to an airline. They're going to try to get them taken care of first, and then they're going to go to the other people that are just doing it just to do it. So, whether that's right or wrong, I can't really say. That's just kind of, not every university does that, but some of them do. So that might be the only thing you might have to kind of watch out for if you go to a university. But there are plenty of flight schools that aren't affiliated with the university. They're just kind of their own private thing, and they'll fly with whoever anytime, really. So
How long is that process?
So for a private, it took me about, I would say, just because of weather and just other random stuff, it probably took me about 9 months.
9 months, okay.
And it just may be different just depending on where you go and how bad the weather can get. Because, I mean, there was times where I was able to fly for 3 weeks straight, and then there would be 2 weeks where I couldn't do anything because of just the weather was just so terrible. So
yeah, I live up in the Northeast, so
yeah,
I'm not, again. So I'm not really sure from a weather perspective whether I would probably face the same issues that you guys face down there in you guys are in the South Mississippi, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are worried about that, the tornadoes and all that stuff down there. So
yeah, the summertime can be interesting. It'll be great skies, and then 20 minutes later a thunderstorm will pop up, and then maybe 2 hours later it goes away, maybe it doesn't. So yeah, there's plenty of times I could go do a flight at 7 in the morning, and then by 2 o'clock, everybody else after 2 o'clock couldn't go do a flight. So, yeah, I think maybe in your area it might be like that, might be a little different. The only thing you'll have to worry about more being up more north is just icing and like cold weather and stuff like that. So, I've heard of instructors kind of more up in that north area for a whole month and a half. They didn't really do any flying just because it was so cold, and the rain and the snow and stuff like that just shut them down for a long time.
Yeah.
May I add to what Victor said to Mr. To our upcoming pilot here, Tyrone Avila. In being in education, in most professions, the personal statement really speaks loudly for the goals and the intentions of the student. So if you are simply selecting a school on the basis of your personal endeavor to enjoy flying, you can almost be ruled out of attaining a scholarship if that university offers scholarships. And therefore, you may need to tailor your personal statement to talk about your upcoming goals for becoming a pilot, that it is not a personal joy that you are looking forward, and that, folks should then support Tyrone's personal desire to be a pilot just for fun, and that's just to add to what Victor said. Okay.
Thank you, I totally understand.
Okay.
So I see I see Alejandro Aldana on the line. He reached out to me a couple months ago. His parents um, reached out to me. I know his aunt from Belmopan, so I just wanted to ask if Alejandro, if he had anything to ask Vic before we move on.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. My name is Alejandro Aldana, and I am 21 years old. At the moment, I am looking to finish my sixth form degree here in Belize. I have about 2 years left for that because I was about to complete the degree before COVID started, but I left the school before, and during that time, I was looking to start flight training, probably in El Salvador. There's a school over there called PANAL. And well, obviously I couldn't go because of the finance, and it it didn't it didn't demotivate me, I still want to pursue this career choice and everything, but I don't know any website or places where I can go to check see if I can get a scholarship or something, because I really don't mind the location of studying, because it's just to get that experience of flying, but it could be anywhere in my, I don't have any preference or anything like that, but I just don't know where to look.
Right. So if you want one way, there's a couple different ways you can go about scholarships. One is with an actual university, and those are scholarships you can get no matter what, whatever you want to learn. So that's kind of the basic thing, is like once you kind of figure out roughly what area you want to go to, then you can start looking at those universities or those schools and then see what kind of scholarships they have just for that university. So like Delta State has a university, is going to have scholarships that this other university is not, just because, they just don't have those set up. So that's one thing you can check, is you can go directly to the university's website, and somewhere on that website, they'll have something about enrolling, and they'll have something about applying for scholarships. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing is you can go and start looking on aviation organizations' websites. So like one of the main organizations in the United States that I don't know if they do too much outside of the U.S., but one of them is called AOPA. So it's like Aircraft Owners and Operators Association, or Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. So, and they have a bunch of scholarships that they give out to people that are trying to go to school or trying to do flight training, so they can become, professional pilot and stuff. So that's another thing, is I would just start researching just different, pilot organizations or aviation organizations, because that can kind of help you figure out like, oh, this organization will offer this much for this training or something like that. And each of them have their own scholarships too. That can be a wide range of amounts for, a wide range of different things. So.
Yes. Yeah, I had checked out before, but I had so many options, and like schools would check and everything. But the next thing that I had a question about was, although they have different times of completion, like an estimated completion time, like an average time to complete the entire course, would it be best to take something that would be crammed into a couple of months, like let's say maybe 8 months, compared to something that would take a little over a year and a half? Would it be best for someone without any experience whatsoever to take the shorter course?
Well, I mean, I think that kind of depends more on the person. I think that when you look at those, when they say that, oh, well, we've had people average this course to be done in 6 months, and this course it took a year. I don't really tell people to really look at those too much because it all really depends on you for the most part. And really, I think wherever you go, you want to try to just do it as much as you can, whether it's studying or hanging out with people and talking to them or just, flying once or twice a day. Like, you want to try to do it as much as you can so that way you just get used to it and that way you learn as much as you can, just because, like you said, when they give you those numbers, they're giving you the average. So it kind of depends on the person.
Okay.
All right.
I find that sweet spot of, building up, learning more, and not overdoing it, but you don't want to do so little that it takes you forever to, finish something. So I don't think you can really do that as easily just because the universities, if they give you that, oh, well, we guarantee that you'll get done in 6 months, they can't really guarantee that. Like they try to do that, and I understand why they're trying to do it, but I don't really ever recommend people to use that as a gauge to pick to go here instead of going here.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering the question.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it.
All right, Vic, we thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you can stick around, we wanted to introduce you to the most senior pilot that I know right now on this line. I save him for last because he's been instrumental in the aviation industry in Belize, where I come from, and I know he was one of the directors of operations at the airline in Belize, the oldest airline I believe in Belize, Maya Island Air. And I think you said, Vic, that you traveled to Belize before, or you know about Belize.
Yeah, I know about. Yeah. I haven't been there, but it would be it'd be amazing to go there, I'm sure.
Right.
One day.
Right. So if now just ask Mr. Hoy to take over, because just ask him how he started, and I know his dad is probably one of the biggest influence on his life, but just if you could take over, Mr. Hoy, how you started and stuff, and where you see yourself and the industry and everything.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good.
The way you introduce me make me sound old. I'm not that old. Well, thanks for having me on today. And aviation has been in my life, in my blood. I think I was bred and born into aviation. As you mentioned, Zenon, my dad opened the first flight school in Belize, and then he later transitioned his flight school into a charter company. That was 40 years ago when he opened his first charter company. And I'm 39, so I was literally born into the aviation industry. I grew up at the airport. I grew up fueling airplanes. I grew up around airplanes, the maintenance, everything. And that's where my passion for aviation came, that my dad used to take me up on his flights. We used to do, at one point, we had 5 airplanes. Do charter flights throughout the entire country, Belize. And that's where the aviation bug really bit me, and that's all I knew I wanted to be, was a pilot. And I still have friends from primary school and high school joke around that, when you're first year school, people would ask, what do you want to be? I always said I wanted to be a pilot. And I thank God I became a pilot. My journey took me as a young Belizean. I went to St. John's College in Belize City. Later, I graduated and went to St. John's Jewel College, graduated with an associate's degree there. And I immediately wanted to go to flight school. And my dad told me, all right, well, pump your brakes a little bit, son. It's like, we want you to have a degree before you just jump straight into the flight school. I insisted and pushed that after sixth form, I went to a regular, what you could call a small mom and pop flight school, that all they did was flying. And listening to you guys talking about universities that offer flight courses. Yes, there are big universities that offer flight courses, but there are also smaller flight schools that offer the same license that you get in a less amount of money and less amount of time.
Right.
Not to toot any horn of mine, but I went from private to commercial in 6 months. Mainly the reason is because I knew to fly an airplane before because my dad was an instructor. So before I went to flight school, 3 months before, my dad took me through the ringer that when I got to flight school, I knew to fly an airplane. You know, I soloed in 3 hours, you know, and I was ahead of the game when I went to flight school. After I graduated in flight school, I decided to attend Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, and that's where I did my undergrad over there. And I graduated with a bachelor's in aeronautical science, and my area of concentration was airline pilot. After that, I decided to come home to Belize, and I decided to build my time in Belize. I didn't do the instructor route that many people do, and if that route works for you, that route works for you. You know, I mean, a lot of people don't really have the luxury. I mean, and I was blessed to have that luxury to be able to come home to my country in Belize, fly in Belize for my dad. Of course, I worked for 3 years without a salary because he paid my aviation, he paid my university. So he would tease me that I'm the brokest pilot in Belize because I don't earn a salary, but I got a degree, right? And after working with him for 3 years, flying with him, his 182, his Cherokee 6 around the country, Belize, doing charters, I decided to venture on and to expand my career. And I got hired with My Island Air. I was with My Island Air for 7 years. Throughout my entire tenure there, I became a flight safety officer. Then I also became the director of operations. And I love Belize. I love my country, but that was the highest I knew I could have attained in Belize. And to get higher in my aviation career, I knew I had to venture outside. And that's when I applied to the airlines in the United States. I got hired with Mesa Airlines as a first officer. I flew first officer on the 175, and then I got upgraded to a captain within a year, and I was a captain with Mesa. And then I got on with JetBlue, flew for JetBlue for 3 years, and now I'm with Delta. You know, so that has been my journey, you know, as a young Belizean. And I must say that I could probably count the amount of Belizean pilots on two fingers that are over here in the United States, which is a great accomplishment for a little country to put it on the map, you know. And I'm not afraid, you know, anytime I'm in the flight deck, they hear my accent and like, where you from? Jamaica? I'm like, no, I'm from Belize. You know, I was like, where's Belize? I'm like, well, you have to explain where Belize is, you know. Right. But that's my journey. And to what you were saying as well, I have recognized throughout the years that it is very hard for young Belizeans to attain that pilot license because of the expense. It's so expensive, you know. And a lot of people do go to the Central American countries like El Salvador because it's cheaper, and you get your license, but it kind of limits you in what you want to do because you get if you want a Central American license. If you really want to branch off to America, you can't fly in America with a Central American license. You got to fly with American license, you know. So hence, it depends what you want to be or what your career is or what your long-term goal is in aviation. I always knew that I wanted to come over to America and fly commercially over here. So hence, all of my education and everything was geared towards America. Nothing wrong with staying in Belize and flying your career there. And if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. It's a great career. I had fun in Belize flying, you know, and it's one of the better careers, I would say, better paying jobs, I must say, in Belize. So it all depends on what our young guys would like in our country in Belize, how they would want to move, you know. And feel free to reach out to me anytime like you did. You know, my dad was a big mentor for young aviators in Belize. Anybody that wanted to learn to fly an airplane, they would approach him and he would like, hey, I mean, come and have a ride in my airplane. And if you like it, you like it. If, you know, if you think that this is cut out for you, then you find out right then and there, instead of spending money entering in a flight school and say, well, I don't really want to be a pilot, you know. So I kind of, like you said, try to pay it forward to fellow young aspiring aviators, to whatever questions they have and whatever way I could help you in attaining and achieving your goal or their goals. Feel free to reach out to me, and I've met a lot of good people along the way that have helped me, mentored me as well, so I just want to pay it back.
Right. So thank you very much, Mr. Hoy. And like he said, if you guys want to reach out to him, he's on Facebook, Arthur Hoy Jr. Our time has come to an end for our session as it relates to the Young Aviators Conference. So I just wanted to thank everybody who took the time out to join. Alejandro, I see some of my friends from South Africa, from Chad that came in. My mom, Pastor Pam, she's on the line, and every other person who came to join, and those who are watching online via Facebook, thank you.